So you're looking to buy land here in North Port, Florida. So what are some of the things that you need to be aware of, and what are some of the things that you need to watch out for when you are looking to purchase land here in North Port? In fact, today we are actually behind one of the lots that we are currently clearing right now to build a house on. So we're going to run through everything you need to look for from start to finish, some of the protected species to look out for, where the nearest utility lines are, and so much more. But before we jump into that, whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, ultimately, that is our team's specialty, is helping out-of-state buyers just like yourself make the move as smooth as possible from wherever state you are coming from to here in North Port. We have an entire team wrapped around this area in North Port. I take care of all the real estate that happens, and then my builder builds the houses, and then we also have an interior designer and a designer that will design your entire house if you go the custom home building route. So with all that being said, if you guys have any questions, my number is up in the corner, so you guys can reach out to me there. So with all that being said, let's start talking about buying land in North Port. So when you are looking to buy a piece of land here in North Port, what makes a good piece of land realistically, right? And so there's a couple of things that we need to look out for. So the first one is going to be electricity. So right behind me is a power pole. So when you're looking at land online, I know it's hard because most of the time it's just an aerial footage of like Google Maps or something like that. So it's not very easy to tell if there's power lines. You can go to the Google Street View and then find the power lines. However, that's the first major thing that you need to look for when you're looking at lots to tell whether they're good or not. Because one of these poles, if there's not electricity running to your property, it is going to cost around $3,000 to $3,500 per pole that the electrical company needs to run to then get to your property. So that is an added expense to be aware of. The second thing to look out for is what kind of public utilities or what utilities would you need here in North Port, basically, or the land that you're looking at. So the first one is going to be city water. So you got to look to see, it's not very, there's not many lots in North Port that have city water. So that's the first thing to look out for, city water or well. So you either have to connect to the city water or you drill a well, which either way, it's not that bad. With a well, the benefit is you don't have to pay for city water. So that's a little bit less of a cost for you. The second thing is city sewer or septic. So here in North Port, I would say 95% of all the lots here are going to need a septic tank, just because that is the area. There's a little parts of North Port, I would say, that have city sewer, but they're very few and far between for the lots. So that kind of covers like the public utilities aspect of stuff. The second thing that you need to look out for is going to be protected species. So when we come back over here, we're going to go over to my lot right here, and we're going to look at, when we are looking at these houses or looking at these lots, we need to check for one, gopher tortoises. So gopher tortoises, I'll throw up a picture right now what they look like, and these little guys are really expensive. In fact, if there's a gopher tortoise found on your property, it is going to cost $6,000 to remove it. Now that is just crazy, $6,000 just to remove one gopher tortoise. So that's one thing to be aware of. That's pretty easy to remedy, is basically during the due diligence period when you're under contract, you can have an environmental assessor guy come out to look at the property to determine if there are any gopher tortoises. The second creature that you need to be aware of is the elusive scrub jay. So here in North Port, we don't have as much of an issue compared to in Port Charlotte, where there's a lot of scrub jays, but scrub jays, once again, are a protected bird. They're not too hard to get rid of. So for example, if you have scrub jays on your land, so it's easy to tell because there's going to be a scrub jay map of North Port that you can look at, and it'll tell you if this lot is in a scrub jay zone or not. But if your lot is in a scrub jay zone, if it's a standard 10,000 square foot lot, it is going to cost around $2,500 to $3,000 for the scrub jay permit. Now, it's not the cost that's bad. It is more so that there's a lot of rules around the scrub jays. So for example, you can't clear for like 5 months out of the year, 6 months out of the year, because it's nesting season and mating season. So you got to be aware of, you can't do any brush clearing, any tree cutting like we did here with these lots when it's during scrub jay mating season or nesting season. So that's another thing to be aware of, right? So protected species, obviously, you can't really predict predict what's going to be on your lot, so it's always good to have an environmental assessment done, which is what we do when we are under contract on lots. Now, the third thing to look at when you are looking to buy land here in North Port is the overall flood zones. So I get this question a lot, and people are like, Noah, is North Port in a flood zone? And so we can talk a little bit about this, or does North Port flood, right? So in Florida, we have a little bit different of a flood code compared to the rest of the United States. And when I say flood zones, I don't mean like it's going to flood when it rains, right? I'm saying when there's a hurricane, that's what the flood zone is going to be. So here in North Port, I would say 90% of the lots are going to be in a flood zone X, which is perfect. You want to buy in a flood zone X because when you're in a flood zone X, you don't have to worry about buying any flood insurance. So that's a huge bonus, right? However, if you want to be on a canal in North Port, a canal that connects to the Gulf, more than not, you are going to be in a flood zone AE, which is right below a flood zone X. Basically just means that if you're going to build a house and you're not building it cash, you're going to get a mortgage, you're going to need flood insurance. Now, people are going to ask, well, what does flood insurance cost here in North Port? So if you're looking to purchase flood insurance in North Port, it can run anywhere from, I've seen anywhere from $500 to $2,000, but it really depends on the overall flood zone. But here in North Port, you're relatively safe. I'd say more on the lower end here. But yeah, with that being said, always want to buy in a flood zone exit if you can possibly help it. Unless you want to be on a canal, then you're going to be most likely in a flood zone AE. So that kind of covers the majority of things that you want to look at. Now, the last and final thing that I just want to talk about is the overall lot sizes here in North Port. So the typical lot size is 80 by 125 feet. So that is about 10,000 square feet total for the entire lot. Now, that is the most common lot to buy here in North Port. However, I just want to say, if you are looking at lots, you know, whether you're looking online or if you're in person driving around, biggest thing is look at lot size and determine the size house that you're looking to build, because depending on the specific areas in North Port has different setbacks for different parts. So be careful about that when you're building a house. So, you know, 80 feet wide gives you the most amount of room possible for you to build a house. It's not going to restrict you, because there are some lots that are like kind of like pie shape, or like they're kind of corner lots, so they're like 65 feet in the front or 55 feet in the front, but they're like 100 feet in the back. It once again just comes down to what you're looking to build, right? So from behind us here, we are building, it's a 80 foot by 125 foot lots, and we're building our house is 60 foot wide. So we're basically building out to the max we possibly can here in North Port. So, and that's just under a 2,000 square foot house, 3 bed, 2 bathrooms. So that kind of gives you a little bit of perspective what you're dealing with when you are looking to buy lots. So now that wraps up today's video about talking about the things that you need to be aware of when you are looking to purchase a piece of land here in North Port. So just to recap, the 4 things to look at is going to be 1, public utilities, electricity, city water, city sewer, and then the second thing is protected species. Always be aware of what protected species are on your lot. Third thing is then looking at flood zones. You want to make sure you're going to be in a flood zone X, so you don't have to worry about flood insurance. And then the fourth and final thing is property dimensions. Always make sure you want to maximize the amount of space. Sure, it may be a little bit cheaper to go a little bit smaller in width. However, that's going to sacrifice the size house that you can build later on down the road. So if you guys have any other questions about building here in North Port, or if you need help finding lots, that is our team's specialty. Like I mentioned before, we help you acquire the lots. We will also help you build the house if you want us to build the house, and then we'll also help you design the house, once again, obviously, if you want that to happen. So my contact information is up here above. So now, after you watched, looking at North Port land, I want to hear from you guys. What were your comments? What were your questions? What are your concerns about land here in North Port? Put them in the comment section down below. But once again, thank you guys for checking out this video, and we will see you real soon on the flip side.